Okay, while he's getting his scrubs on over here, preparing for surgery, it is time to welcome John Cannon with My Car Doc for the My Car Doc Care Tip. Give John a hand.
So is it hot enough for you guys yet? Are you tired of hearing that yet? It's only June, folks. Hey, can somebody hit the thing? Thank you. Love you too. So everybody in Indiana, I know you've all heard it, hey, if you don't like the weather, stick around 5 minutes, it's gonna change. Question is, when? It's June. It's gonna be hot all the way through September. It is not changing. The number one complaint that we mechanics get during this time of year, of course, is air conditioning. And why is air conditioning so expensive? Why isn't it, and the number two thing we get is, why is my air conditioning not cooling down enough? Go ahead. So it all started with R12. So the head of GM back in 1928, and I know when you think about air conditioning, you don't really think about 1928 as air conditioning, but they were actually putting air conditioning in cars back then. But he required his team to come up with a safe refrigerant that could be used in vehicles because the refrigerant that they were using had the really unfortunate side effect of exploding whenever they had car accidents. A little bit of a bummer on your summer afternoon. So they came up with R12. Now R12 is a safe, non-toxic, non-flammable refrigerant. It was great. They used it in home AC units. They used it in trains, water fountains. You remember how whenever we were kids, the water out of a water fountain was so cold? R12, same thing. They even used it in asthma inhalers. They did this for about 60 years. The stuff was safe and it was great. DuPont owned the patent for the most popular R12 for about 30 years, and they could charge whatever they wanted for it. They were the sole proprietor. They had it. So if you wanted it, you had to get it from them. So if R12 was so good, why did we switch? We switched to a thing called R134A. Well, remember that hole back in the ozone layer that was going to fry all of us back in '93? There you go. So there's a little bit of a conspiracy theory on this because we happened to discover that hole, and we happened to discover that R12 was contributing to that right about the same time that DuPont was losing their copyright on R12. So guess who came up with a new copyright on a new refrigerant? R134A, and DuPont held that. So when the government banned R12, DuPont had been making billions on R12 for about 50 years. They came up with the latest and greatest new thing, R134A. Now, the R134A wasn't going to kill our atmosphere like it had been. It wasn't quite as good as the other stuff. But DuPont then told Congress about this, about, hey, we have the greatest, latest. And so Congress said, all right, let's put that in cars then. They probably greased a few palms. Let's face it, that's how government works. And so they decided the R134 was better for the environment, and all new cars from 1995 on had to have R134A and not R12. The two were not compatible, couldn't use it. So if R12 was so good, we switched to R134A. Then for the next 30 years, DuPont made more billions off the sale of R134A because guess what? They can charge whatever they want for it. So then we used R134A all the way up until modern cars until the last couple of years. And then if R134A is so good and it's not frying the ozone layer, why did we switch to the new stuff, 1234YF? This is a new refrigerant. It has a carbon footprint of 4, and R134A has a carbon footprint of 1,430 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram. In other words, nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. However, it's supposed to be better for the environment, so familiar story, out with the old, in with the new. So here's an insider trading tip. If you want to make a bunch of money, invest in Chemours and Honeywell. These are the two companies that now hold the patent for 1234YF, and all of these new cars made after 2021 require R1234YF. We are no longer using 134A. So why did we switch now? Well, it's kind of like Donnie Baker used to say, it's state law, man. Only now it's federal. A few Bob and Tom fans out there. So why is AC so expensive? Well, the bottom line is because it can be. It's a luxury item that almost everyone is willing to pay for. The cost of R134A has tripled in the past 3 years due to supply and demand issues. Since they're not making cars that use R134A anymore, the R134A that they have is getting to be a very limited supply. What I used to pay for it has tripled. My cost on the service has not gone up. My cost on the supplies have gone up. So it's all about supply and demand. Now, companies know that manufacturers are using less R134A, so they're going to get their money while they can, and they're manipulating the market to gouge you. They are artificially manipulating the market to gouge you. It all comes down to corporate greed. I didn't do this for you. I was on it. All right. So 1234YF is so much better for the environment. So it's got to be cheaper, right? Well, when is the shiny new toy ever cheaper than the old one? The cost of the similar amount of 1234YF is about $200 more than the new exaggerated cost of R134A. So what I'm paying for it with the tripled what I used to pay for it, 1234YF is even more expensive. It's so expensive because it's new, it's shiny, and all the cool kids, come on, nothing? All right, all the cool kids have it. The new 1234YF refrigerant is in demand from all of the manufacturers. So every car out there in the parking lot, every manufacturer from 2021 on are now legally required to carry 1234YF. So Chemours and Honeywell can charge pretty much what they want for it, just like DuPont did with R12 and R134A for about 60 years. And I now have a list of 9 things that you can do to help your vehicle's AC run better and last longer. And those are on the tables out there for everybody. So why did we do 9? Because everybody has a top 10 list, right? And everybody in here knows that the 10th tip is to come to my car doc. So anyway, so your AC, all those tips are on the back of there. I'm not going to go through them and read them all to you, but they're on there, and that's why I passed all that out for everybody. And then also I know that I use a lot of technical numbers with the R12 and 134A and 1234YF, which for me, this is just every day. It's part of what I do. But for you guys, it can be confusing. I understand. So that's also why your tips are on one side and a copy of the speech is on the other. So thanks a lot.